Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to show you how to finish off a balcony nosing with miters, trim, and other details so it looks really professional. Stay tuned. All right, so in my last video I talked about how to integrate a floating floor and a balcony balustrade. I talked about how the nosing was an integral part of finishing off the edge of the balcony or the stairwell, and also providing a place for the floor to expand and contract. Now, whether or not you're doing a floating floor, you still have to do some kind of a nosing with the trim details and everything else on every balcony balustrade that you do. So I'm going to show you how to do the miters and all the other details so that it's going to look like it's professionally done. Now, whether you're doing this for yourself as a homeowner or you're doing it as a professional, these tips will help you. Now, this may seem like an insignificant task, but it is worthy of a video because there's a real tendency to underestimate how much time it takes to do all these details on the nosing, and you can really dig yourself into a hole with how much time you're spending to get all the miters nice. So I think this will be really beneficial for anybody doing a balcony balustrade. All right, so it's been raining so heavy I had to move my little temporary work station inside the customer's workshop, and I've got this nosing set up to be cut. What I've done is I've used the Collins tread gauge to mark both the newel post and the half newel on the nosing. So I've got a half newel here, and I've then traced it, and then I've got a newel post here, and I've traced that, and I've also done a little trial piece with a scrap piece of cedar and confirmed that that's going to work. So I'll just get this done and hopefully it works. And I have to do this little zigzag design on this piece here, and then I'm going to do a miter return at the end. That's why I've got a little extra here, and you'll see when it's all done. All right, so here's that nosing piece. Just needs to be sanded a little bit on each end cut. Basically just make a bit of a bevel down so I can get that piece in. And otherwise it fits really good. I'm really happy with it. Just make sure if you're doing these projects where you have to do stuff like this that you allot a fair bit of time in your your time budget, but also if you're pricing out a job as a professional. This takes a lot of work to get this just right. And you just can't wing it because it's finishing carpentry. It's got to be done exact. All right, so I'm going to make a return miter on this end of my nosing piece. And because I'm going to do a roundover on this edge, like a 3/8 radius roundover, I have to do that first before I cut my pieces for my return miter. So that is something to remember. But I'm going to need a piece to maximize the length of this little piece that goes past the edge of the wall. I'm just going to mark a 45 in this direction here. Then I'm going to flip my combo square this way and make a 45 this way, you know, leaving room for the saw cut. And the way to remember this is that this piece here is going to get swung over like so to make my return miter, and this here will be waste. And that's the way to remember it, so you don't do it the opposite direction and have to throw it out. And it's a pretty critical thing to do, because if you mess up this little piece here, you've got in my case, a 6 foot long piece of 1x8 that you've messed up. So it's important to get that right. And that is the 3/8 roundover bit I'm going to use, white side. All right, so even though I got my Festool 1010 router set up, I'm going to use this little DeWalt cordless, and that way I don't have hose and extension cord tripping me up. And it's a little better for finesse work because I can see through this clear base. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I don't have to worry about dust because I'm outside anyway. So that was a climb cut to begin with, and now I'm going to go with the regular cut here. Now I'm just going to stop this roundover just a bit away from the tip, because I think if I go all the way, I take a chance of having a blowout and making a mess here. So that looks really good to me. Now we'll do the other side exactly the same. Little 3/8 roundover. So I discovered a little bit of a snag here. If I cut right where I need to cut, then once I plunge the saw, it's going to hit this area here and also into here somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this piece of trim against the fence so that the plunge on my saw, sort of the circumference of the saw, doesn't plunge into here. I may have to finish that cut with a handsaw, but the moral of the story is to leave your tongues long when you're doing these return miters, and that way you'll have enough and you not worry about getting into your good meat here. All right, so that's about as far as I can go. I'll have to finish that with a handsaw. And just make sure that when you shut your saw off, you've already lifted it, because if you shut your saw off, it'll plunge another an inch possibly. So what you have to do is keep your blade moving and lift it up out of the material and risk having a bit of tear out, but otherwise it'll plunge right through and make a mess. All right, so I'm almost reluctant to show you this stuff because it frustrates me more than anybody, but I have to. This is a bit too long, this return, so I should have made it a little smaller. So rather than sand it and fiddle around, I'm just going to glue it with some CA glue to a piece of trim and trim it off a little bit, and hopefully that works. All right, so this is going to fit perfect. I'm going to use a combination of just regular tight bond glue, a little bit of CA glue with accelerant. I want to have a little bit of white glue in there as well, because I think it has more longevity than CA glue by itself. Then I have a Collins miter clamp here to use. I don't think I'll need it with the CA glue, but I have it ready. And CA glue is working on my fingers, so it should work on the wood. That seems pretty tight. I'll just leave that for 10 or 15 minutes before I sand it. And if you haven't used the Collins miter clamp before, that's what you do is you just set that right on here with this pair of pliers, and that will hold that tight. But I don't need to do it here, I don't think. But it is a really good tool for any finishing carpenter.